Evening, welcome to the United Stand. This is your latest Manchester United news and transfer news with me, Mark Goldbridge. We've got an injury setback for Luke Shaw. Bring him home. It's coming home. Bring him home. I think that probably needs to happen. We'll be discussing that. Also, a late Michael Olise bid from Manchester United that failed. We'll talk about that as well. Also, another development around Alvarez of West Ham. Weird. I'm starting to think that there is something going on there, even though it makes no financial sense as to how we would do that. Is there something behind this that we're seeing with a lot of clubs at the moment where Manchester United may well get Alvarez? I'll explain that one for you in a moment. We've also got a bit of an update on Branthwaite, and also Xerxes' release clause apparently won't kick in till July the 1st, so we might not see anything sort of finished with that for a little bit longer. I guess we'll have to wait and see. So loads to get into on the show tonight. The first thing I'm going to say is I want to talk about Luke Shaw. I want to talk about this Olise thing. Alvarez, just the one that's interesting to me at the moment. So we'd heard last week about Fabrizio mentioning Alvarez, and I think we'd been quite, surprised really, because yes, he's a good player. He's Premier League proven now. Good season for West Ham. I think he was a good signing for West Ham for 35 million. Obviously played with Ten Hag formerly at Ajax. Really good season for West Ham. We need a midfielder. We get linked to him. And you're sort of like, well, how does that work? Because we haven't hardly got any money, and West Ham would want to double it. They'd want 60, 70 million. So how would that even work? That was last week when Romano said it. In the last few minutes, I've seen this from Plettigol in Germany, and he said that Manchester United have inquired about West Ham midfielder Alvarez in recent days, have gathered information about the figures and his plans. His price valuation is estimated to be between 60 and 80 million euros. Erik Ten Hag has a high opinion of Alvarez. Well, Alvarez was interviewed as part of the Copa America, and he basically said this. At the moment, my focus is on this. Afterwards, let's see what opportunities there are out there. In so many words, that's what he said. So it feels like there is something there, apart from the fact that he's only been at West Ham for a year, he's done well, and they'd want stupid money, which we haven't got. Which got me thinking, right, it's a bit like the De Ligt story. I don't believe the De Ligt story, but funnily enough, it's Plettigol, it's Romano, and others have said that De Ligt's being considered. Now, I don't believe the De Ligt story because of financials. Like, he's on 250 grand a week, and they'd want 40 million. So I look at deals realistically and think, well, financially, we can't do that. And I look at Alvarez and I go, financially, we can't do that. And I look at João Neves and I go, financially, we can't do that. But then I'm like going, well, I'm obviously not right. Like, we keep getting linked to players that financially we can't do. So how will that work? And, well, look, we've seen it. We've seen it, haven't we? Because of Branthwaite, we were aware that Everton might need to raise some money before June the 30th. And what we've seen is that Villa need to do that. And what we've seen is that Chelsea need to do that. And what we've seen is that Newcastle need to do that. And what we've seen is that Everton are going to do a deal with Newcastle, who are going to do a deal with them. And Everton are going to do a deal with Villa, and they're going to do a deal with them. And Chelsea have done a deal with Villa, and they're going to do a deal with them. So you've got this merry-go-round going on where clubs are selling a player to them, and then they're selling them a player back. And you roughly end up with the same situation, but you pump money into your books for homegrown talent. And I just got thinking about this. Alvarez, what's West Ham's financial situation? Are they a club that need a bit of financial boost into their team? Because if Everton are doing it, and Chelsea are doing it, and Villa are doing it, and Newcastle are doing it, could Manchester United do it with Alvarez and West Ham, where we take Alvarez and they take McTominay and Maguire or something like that? I might be completely wrong. I'm just trying to understand why Alvarez at 60 million quid would be anywhere near Manchester United, unless there is some sort of, they're going to buy one of our players as well, or something like that. Maybe that's how it works. I don't know. Maybe. Because let's be clear, we have to sell to buy anyway. So if we're selling Greenwood, Casemiro, Wan-Bissaka so that we can buy another player, well, buying Alvarez for 60 and then West Ham giving us 30 for McTominay is the same thing, isn't it? So I don't know. I don't know. We'll leave it at that. I've got nothing more to say. It's only a conspiracy theory, but maybe there's something in that, because I tell you what, I've never seen what we're seeing at the moment. I've never seen Everton selling a player to Newcastle and Newcastle selling them a player, and Everton selling Villa a player and they're selling a player, and Chelsea selling a player to them. And I mean, I think Chelsea have bought a Villa player who's played 5 times for 19 million quid, and we can't get 8 for Lindelof, who's a Swedish international. And Chelsea are giving 19 million quid to a teenager who's played 5 games. It's some weird shit going on this summer. So who knows? Who knows? It could be that type of summer. Rory C says, if Ten Hag thinks highly of him, we should have signed him instead of Casemiro. It's spilt milk under the bridge at this stage, and it will never happen, says Rory C. Well, let's move on. There's a lot to get into, and I've got to get back on That's Football for the Belgium game. So look, you'll see on the thumbnail, Shaw and Olise. Let's hit these 2 topical stories. Then we're going to tell you what's going on with Xerxes, Branthwaite, and a couple of other things. So, late Olise transfer bid, we'll talk about in a moment. But Luke Shaw, injury setback. Now, look, I don't want to be a hypocrite here. Who does? But I wasn't one of those people that threw their toys out the pram about Luke Shaw being called up for England. As an English man, Luke Shaw is our best left back, and if he is fit, we are a better team with him. And I felt that it was a coincidence that Luke Shaw was fit enough to go as part of the England squad, but not to be part of the FA Cup. And not in a sinister way. I just thought, his injury means he's going to be back in June and not back in May. Unfortunately, it really does look like he's rushed himself back for England, because the report today is that he's actually still hobbling and not part of England's first team training. Now, I believe he was actually on the bench for England against Serbia, but wasn't on the bench for Denmark. So there's even a hint going round that he's actually had another setback. Now, at this point, I think Man United need to be stepping in and saying, look, your priority is Manchester United, mate. If you weren't doing this for England, you'd be on holiday in Dubai, doing light training, getting yourself ready for mid-July in a month. Getting ready for pre-season with us. And what you're doing is desperately fighting against an injury to play in a tournament. And you haven't played competitive football since the start of February. Man United need to step in here. It's getting a bit of a joke. We already know Southgate is a wally. And he's got no interest in what's best for Man United. He's only interested in what's best for him. Luke Shaw is obviously at an age where he wants to be part of this England team. But somebody's got to be the voice of reason here. It's the second week of the tournament. He's still not training with the first team. And we're going to throw him into competitive quarterfinals or something when he's not played since February. I felt it was worth a go. But the fact that he's not training with the first team yet, and we're playing our 3rd game on Tuesday, he shouldn't be there now. I know it's harsh, and I know it's bad, and I'm a massive fan of Luke Shaw, but he shouldn't be there. Manchester United has to be the priority. And it's very, very obvious now that he's been risked on a chance that he might have been fit. And obviously he's not. So he shouldn't be there. He shouldn't be part of that squad. And I'm pretty sure Harry Maguire will be sat there going, well, I might have been ready. I wasn't that far off. So I just think that Luke Shaw should be back away from that England team now, because the risk is clear as day. He is not fit enough to be part of that squad. He hasn't played since February. He's not training with the first team for England yet. And you're telling me we might throw him into the last 16 or a quarter final when he's not played and he's obviously got a problem. He's our player. We pay his wages. I know it's harsh, but I'm a big fan of Luke Shaw. I've defended him for years. I think he's a fantastic player. But Man United's got to take the priority here. And somebody has got to be doing something. And look, it's just not right. It's just not right. He's not even training with the England first team. He's not fit enough to do that. He shouldn't be there now. And tough shit, Southgate, for not taking another left back. Simple as that. Anyway, look, that's the latest on that. I think it's a bit of a joke. And I think, I'm a bit concerned, because when a player is not fit and they're rushing themselves back, and it's somebody with the fitness problems that Luke Shaw's had, this could have a massive kick-on effect for his next season at left-back. And we've just had a season where we've had no left-back all year, remember. So I'm not patient about this at all. We need to prioritise what's better for us, and this shouldn't be continuing. Michael Olise. So Michael Olise is going to sign for Bayern Munich, but a bit of an update. The Mirror have reported today that Manchester United made and Man City made a late play for Olise. Now we know we wanted Olise. We know Ineos wanted Olise. And I'm not surprised if we have made a late play. But the detail of this is quite interesting. Apparently, we didn't have the funds to put the deal together. So what we said was to Crystal Palace, we wanted to do a deal where he would stay at Palace for another year and then come to United in the summer, next summer, which is how highly we rated him. So look, whether that's true or not, that's the story coming out. I mean, I'll be honest, if that had happened, I wouldn't have been very happy, because I'd have been like, we're waiting another year for a player that we need now. But he's gone to Bayern Munich. That's the basic update on that. But it was interesting in the sense that we might have been trying to find a different way. Other updates coming out is that Joshua Zirkzee's release clause isn't active until July the 1st and will expire in early August. So Zirkzee, there's been a few updates today coming in. iPaper has said that Man United have made contact with Zirkzee and no offer on the table yet, but they're willing to meet his release clause. There's also regurgitation of the story that AC Milan are looking at other options now, and that Zirkzee's agent had been demanding a commission that was very, very big to Milan, but Man United expect to play much less than what Milan were being offered up. But there's also this story that Milan are now moving on to other targets. Sky have said that Man United are now leading the race to sign Zirkzee ahead of other clubs as well. So I think around Zirkzee, I'd be very disappointed if we didn't get this deal done now. I don't know what you all think, but there's not really that much going on around Zirkzee. I think that a lot of people have been talking about it today, different journalists, different outlets, but there's not really anything in it. Man United are leading the race. The most interesting thing I've read is that the release clause won't kick in until July the 1st, which is actually fine for Manchester United. It doesn't, you know, you can't be hijacked basically, because you don't need to pay it until July the 1st. So, and it's a release clause. So I think with Zirkzee, he would never be holding up a Man United shirt until he comes back from the Euros anyway. But on top of that, no one's holding up a new shirt for United until we get the new sponsor and the new kit. So I think with Zirkzee, he's probably in the 90% club. We might just have to be a bit patient on it. Welcome to the Members Club, Jackson. Appreciate that. Mojo says, I am sure Ineos have circumvented around environment laws, taxation rules over the years for the benefit of their business. Surely UEFA rules for Todibo is child's game in comparison, says Mojo. Look, I did a tweet the other day that was sort of like, I forgot what it was. It ain't over yet. And it was Tom Cruise going, it's classified. There's no point in me not saying what that's about now, because it was always going to be Olise or Todibo, and it's clearly Todibo. So I don't think Todibo deal is dead. That's not me saying it's going to happen, but from what I've heard on Thursday, I don't think the Todibo deal is dead, because when Sir Jim Radcliffe is saying that UEFA are basically blocking the lad from making the move, he wants the move. Ineos really like him, and Ten Hag has liked him for a long time. When you think about this new relationship that is being built between Ten Hag and this committee, then what you want to do in your first summer is do things that everybody agrees with. You know, you don't want to be buying a player that one or two people aren't sure about and two or three people are sure about. So with Todibo, you've got that synergy. You know, that coincidental synergy that Ten Hag has been scouting this guy for 18 months before Ineos were even thinking about buying Man United. And then Ineos really like him because they've got him at Nice, and then he wants to come to United. So this is a deal that everybody likes, and financially it's straightforward because his market value is what we will pay because Ineos own Nice. The only issue is UEFA are stopping it. So I just think that watch this space with that, because we want it, he wants it, everybody wants it, but UEFA don't want to let it happen. And I think that I think Mojo's right. I think Ineos will look at ways to make it happen. England are going to go out in the round of 16, so Shaw will not even have time to get rushed back, says KFJ. And thank you very much for that one. Appreciate it. Rad says, make Pellistri into a world-class winger. I like Pellistri, but I don't think Ten Hag has ever really got involved in that one, has he? How has Ten Hag scouted Todibo, says Marvin AM? Because last summer we nearly bought him, mate, and we don't just pop our finger in the air and see which way the wind's blowing in the summer. So we were scouting Todibo from before last summer, which is basically the last 18 months. I mean, Marvin, you surprise me because you seem to watch every show, and then you're a bit like a goldfish. You don't actually take in what we're saying. Like we had Fabrizio on the show probably 16 months ago. I think it was March of last year, talking about Todibo, Disasi, and Kim Min-jae. Can't you remember the show where Romano said in the February or the March of not this year, the last year, he said, watch out for French centre-backs in playing in the French league, Disasi and Todibo. We've been looking at him for ages, mate. Ages. Maybe I've just got a better memory than you. Rory C says, I'm worried about the Xerxes deal. To activate a release clause, you need to pay all the cash up front. And if Bologna insist on that, we won't get him, says Rory. And Mike Flory, welcome to the members club. On Branthwaite, there is a bit of an update on Branthwaite. United Relay says, what's happening with Branthwaite? Well, there is a story coming out from the Daily Mail, and it's Simon Jones, and it's come out in the last hour or so. Manchester United are preparing to submit a second offer for Everton centre-back Jared Branthwaite. This is new in relation to Simon Jones and the Daily Mail. However, Manchester United have been preparing a second bid for Branthwaite for about a week because the first bid went in a week ago. So what happened here with Branthwaite is that early last week we were ready to go in with a final offer of about of a lower offer. We offered 35 plus 8. Everton have said they want silly money, and United were ready to go in with another offer. I would speculate it was probably 40 plus 5 or something like that, or 43. We'll never go up to 50, basically. And I think we were going to do that. And then Everton have gone off doing business with other clubs to raise money, and they're now saying, well, we don't need to sell. So I think Man United are probably wary that their second bid will be their final bid. So they just want to make sure they put in a bid that they're happy with before they walk away. And I don't know what that final bid's going to be, that second bid's going to be, but I think they've had to readjust it this week because Everton have gone off and raised money through other clubs. Living in North Carolina, Jackson says, never was interested in football until I started watching you with Mourinho. Thanks for introducing me to this incredible game. That's a great story, Jackson. I love that. And the amount of people who say to me, actually, I love the United Stand community because I support Man United, but having this community has made me more interested in the club in a daily basis. And I think, obviously I live and breathe it every single day, but you're right, I just love the ability to talk about Manchester United all the time. Avinash says, since Ineos own Nice, would it be possible for us to sign him on a free if Nice terminate his contract? No, Avinash, you can't do that because the rule is about who you played for in the year that you got into the Europa League. Just going back to what Rory said about being worried about the Xerxes deal. I'm not really worried about any deal at the moment because it really comes down to we've almost got to re-educate ourselves on what we're doing now. And yeah, in the past, Ed Woodward, Richard Arnold, John Murta, and whoever the manager is, and you panic about the player, you panic about the wage, you panic about the transfer fee. But we have set in place something now that is meant to be way more strategic and way more scrutinised. So I don't think that we're scattergun approach is what I'm trying to say, Rory. I don't think we're going, ooh, Xerxes looks cheap, let's go and get him. I think that there will be an element of scouting and assessment around the player before we actually go and move forward. As I said to you yesterday, if we don't get Xerxes, we're going to look a little bit amateur because he was going to AC Milan. It was nailed on he was going to AC Milan. And if you're going to hijack a deal and put the time into hijacking a deal, you've got to get the deal done. Otherwise, if he still goes to AC Milan, we do look really sort of amateur. So I expect him to sign for Manchester United now. I think we've put the work in. All right, it's been a bit late, but I understand why it's late. I don't think it's a desperate late play. You know, it's June. It's not the last week of August. We know what desperation looks like in August, and this is June. I actually think the explanation as to why, because there's a good question where people will say, if we wanted Xerxes, why have we left it so late? And I think there are numerous explanations, but I think the two that sort of jump out to me is that, have we left it late? Have we left it late? If his release clause can't be played till July the 1st, maybe we just timed our entry. You know, maybe it's just, we were like, we don't need to rush on this one. I suspect we were looking at Sesko as well. I think we were looking at Sesko and seeing if he was going to leave Leipzig. And then if he had been leaving Leipzig, we probably would have seen if there was a possibility that he would have come to us. So I think we waited on Sesko. I also think the manager situation, like now that Ten Hag is staying, Xerxes is a player that he likes and Ineos like, whereas if you got Tuchel, he might have said a different player. So I think the timing's not a problem. I don't think that he will. We've moved desperately late. Also, any chance we can just not agree? Chris says, any chance we can just agree not to play Todibo in the Europa for next season? I mean, I don't know whether it's that simple, Chris. I don't know whether you can sign him and then he can't play in the Europa, or you can't sign him altogether because you're in the Europa and they're in the Europa. I don't know, mate, is the honest answer. Rory C says, I just mean we won't have the actual cash to pay up front if Bologna insist on that. Last set of accounts to June 23, we had 70 million cash in the bank. We need Swedish rumble on this. I don't think it's that simple that you need to have 34 million to hand over to Bologna, and I'm sure there'll be a way around it. DeWald says, hi Mark, great show as always. Does Everton getting new owners ease the fact that Branthwaite needs to be sold, making them more reluctant to sell, says DeWald. Look, I like Branthwaite. I want United to sign Branthwaite. I think he'd be a good signing. But honestly, if we don't sign him, I think there's plenty of other players out there. And maybe in a year's time, he goes and plays for Arsenal or Man City and he doesn't look back. Or maybe in a year's time, he's missed the boat and he ends up staying at Everton for the rest of his career, playing in mid-table Premier League football. I mean, that's the risk you take in football, isn't it? I always think that I want players, and I think this is a fair point. I've mentioned it before. I think sometimes we move for players and they don't move for us. I think sometimes you're involved in a deal and the players sort of like standing back. Oh, you know, what will be will be. And I've seen United buy players in the past, and I've seen players go to other clubs, especially Real Madrid, and they absolutely push for the move. Like, this is my opportunity, I want it. Now, obviously, Man United haven't been that good over the last 10 years, but I also think that the modern footballer can be quite materialistic, quite blasé, quite self-centred. And when we're talking about mentality, I want players that want to play for Manchester United. So when we go knocking and we tell their agent we're knocking, I want them to be knocking on the door as well. That might take us a bit of time to get to that, but I don't think it's impossible. You know, maybe you speak to Guehi's agent and say, look, we really want you. And he goes, well, I'm not signing a new contract at Palace. I've got 2 years left. I want to play for Man United. So let's bang the door down at Selhurst Park together and see what we can do. Now, I'm not saying Guehi's going to do that, but that's sort of what I want. And if we don't sign Branthwaite because he's not pushing for the move, then we move on. There's plenty more fish in the sea. I want the player, and maybe he will bang on the door, and maybe he is banging on the door. But if it doesn't happen, it's not the end of the world. Like, I wanted Olise. He's going to Bayern Munich. There are other players out there. You know, Olise is not going to be the only creative winger that's available this summer. So I think that Sir Jim Radcliffe said it best. We're not going to solve everything in one summer. And I said it best as well. If you want to build a reputation in the transfer market, you know, you've got to burn a few dollars. And what I mean by that is we've got to show clubs that we mean business. And, you know, if you're a heavyweight boxer and you want a title shot, you don't just walk in and go, I'm really hard. I'll knock you out. You know, you've got to have a few fights to prove that you can do that. And I think United are going to have a few fights in the transfer window. And that might be walking away, reputationally walking away and not having the reputation of overpaying and being a soft touch. So, look, I think Branthwaite is interesting. Would I be as confident that we're going to get him as Xerxes? No, because Xerxes got a release clause. He's cheaper. And Bologna know they've got to let him go. Everton, the Premier League clubs have become a lot more powerful over the last few years because the money is distributed more fairly. And they might just get new owners who want to go, look at us. We're not about selling. Look at what we're going to do. It might be to prove a point. So it might happen, it might not. But if it doesn't happen, I'll be disappointed because I think he's a really good player. But if it doesn't happen, we just need to move on. Finding players that truly want to play for the club is crucial, says Owen. We've had a mentality problem among our players since Sir Alex Ferguson left. Exactly. I'm not really interested in players that sit there and go, look, if the club agree with a deal, I'll come, but I'm not pushing for it. I'd go, right, piss off. Do you think not having a director of football in place is affecting United from getting deals done, says Dimitri? It's a great question, Dimitri. We haven't got the director of football that we want. We will have that director of football in the future. I don't really know who's doing what. We haven't got a CEO either. Barada, historically for Man City, was heavily involved in deals, and we don't have Barada yet either. But we do have Blanc, who's reconstructed Juventus, been a massive part of PSG's build. So we do have him, and he can work. We do have Wilcox. He's very inexperienced. There are other people. Is it Matt Hargreaves or someone like that? So there are people that can go and do deals. Are we as strong as we will be? No. But should we be strong enough to do stuff? Yes. Who do you think the next English manager will be, says Bam. You're on the United stand, mate. That's football. And I'm just saying, as soon as you said you'll look at how Ineos managed Nice, they confirmed Ten Hag. Coincidence? I think they're not. I think not. They're scared of you, mate, says Ahmed. No. No. That was just a coincidence, Ahmed. So what you're saying is that I was going to do a video on how bad Nice managed, how bad Ineos managed Nice, and they announced Ten Hag that night. I mean, it would be great for the community if we were held in that high esteem, but that's just pure coincidence, mate. And who's to say? I might do the Nice video tomorrow if they don't sign Xerxes. Tonight, that was a joke. What's the expectation from this season, says Avanash? Champions League football. Yeah, it's not good enough that Man United over the last 10 years are in, out, shake it all about. Champions League football, year one of Ineos, and year two, Champions League football again. I'm tired, and this is not on Ten Hag, and it's not on Mourinho or anybody. I'm tired of Manchester United not consistently being in the Champions League. We should be in the Champions League every year. And we should expect to be in the Champions League every year. And we're not. So I expect Manchester United to get in the Champions League this year. And genuinely, this is year 3 for Ten Hag. It's not year 1. It's Ineos' first year, but this is year 3. So I want to see the development, the next level for Rasmus, Mainu, Garnacho. I want to see another couple of young players coming through. I want to see 4 or 5 good players brought in. I want to see 4 or 5 to 10 players out. The summer's going to kick off. I just think what happens is before the first deal, everyone starts to get nervous, but it is going to kick off. And the expectation for next season has to be Champions League. Now, we've got 2 opportunities to do that. Ideally, you win a trophy, the Europa League, and you qualify for the Champions League. But that's always risky because that's the last game of the season. And if you lose it, you're not in the Champions League. So I would like to see Man United in the top 4 in the Premier League. And I would like to see us win a trophy. Now, whether that's the Europa League, the FA Cup, the Carabao Cup, I don't really mind as long as we get the Champions League football. Let's see what happens in pre-season. We were crap last pre-season, says Marvin. Marvin, I don't really think pre-season matters. We're going to go on to the US tour and... 1 minute. Yeah, pre-season tour will be there. We'll be in America. We'll be doing watch-alongs, etc., like we always are. I enjoy it, but it's enjoyable pre-season for cameos, for young players, for new signings. Performance really means nothing. We were shit on tour last year, and Ten Hag took the weird step of saying the players weren't listening. Was that a bit of a prelude to what was to come? We certainly didn't build any momentum, like Marvin says. But results-wise, it doesn't really matter. What I would say about pre-season is I would be very, very surprised if we had anywhere near our best players. If you're out in the States or you're watching games on the TV or whatever, you're probably not going to see... You going to bed?
Yeah.
Oh, not mate.
Night.
All right. Say night to everyone.
Night.
See you later.
Bye.
Bye.
Night.
How's your back?
Okay.
Good.
Yeah.
What do you have a bowl of?
Just some cereal.
What sort?
Just Freddy's.
Shreddies?
Yeah.
Good. Night, mate.
Night.
I'll be up in a minute anyway. See you in a bit. He's not been well today. He's got a bit of a, I don't know, it's like an allergy reaction or something like that, but he's got a really itchy back, and I remember having that when I was a kid. And after the game, after the Portugal game, I went upstairs and he was like on the floor, like really crying, and because it's so irritable. But he's just had a bowl of Shreddies and a cool shower, and he's got his fan on, so hopefully be all right. Nawaf says, Mark, isn't us not over... Sorry, on the tour, very, very quickly, on the tour, I think that depending on what happens in the Euros, there will be players that don't go on the tour anyway. You'll see Rashford, Maguire, McTominay, because Scotland will be out, but you might not see Bruno, Delo, trying to think, Martinez, Copa America, Argentina, Garnacho, Copa America. So there'll be a few players that probably won't be on the tour. Nawaf says, Mark, isn't us not overpaying for players sometimes makes us go for option B and C and D, which seems like nothing has changed sometimes. Maybe overpaying would be our best option. I like this comment from Nawaf because as a community, we have to play devil's advocate because people have different opinions. And I've seen this before and I respect it. Like, you know, sometimes I'll jump on an opinion and go, rah, rah, rah. I actually do respect this opinion. So what Nawaf is saying is that if we don't pay the money for option A, we end up with option B, C and D, which is what's been happening for years. Like Mourinho didn't get option A's. We know Van Gaal didn't. And we know Ten Hag didn't get option A's. So if we're not paying for option A's because we're trying to save money and change the wage structure, then what's different about what's been going on before? And I do understand that. And you could say Olise was an option A, we're not getting it. So I understand that and I do agree with it. But there's a flip side to that. Why didn't we get option A's in the past? Because they chose to go to other clubs? Because we fucked it up? And then what we did is we paid stupid wages for option B, C and D. There was a different reason we didn't get option A with the Glazers and Woodward and Arnold, because we still gave option B, C and D 300 grand a week. What Ineos are doing is they're doing something very different. They're saying we're not going for option A because we're not paying those wages anymore and we need to draw a line in the sand. And in the future, we will get option A because everyone will know this is the way Man United works. So I have sympathy with Ineos if we're saying no because of stupid agent fees or stupid wages, because we've never done that before. That's something new and they have to do that because the club's a bloody mess. But you are right, we may well in the short term not get what we want, but it was never going to be Ineos A. It was never going to be like that because Rome wasn't built in a day, and when there's been 10 years of damage, it's not going to get solved in one summer. So patience will be a key. But I would also say, Nawaf, as well, that's assuming I'm assuming the interpretation correctly. I mean, what if Ineos do go and give Xerxes' agent 10 million? What if they do go and give Branthwaite 200 grand a week? I mean, we're only assuming that's what they're doing. Anyway, I've got to get over to the Belgium game. I'm live over on there in a very, very short moment. So I will see you over there in about 5 minutes' time for Belgium against Romania. That's football. We had a great watch-along between Portugal and Turkey. Right good laugh on that one. And we'll continue that with you in a few minutes' time. Legends tonight. It's starting to fizzle out a little bit, the volume of games. There's no more 2 o'clock games in the Euros now, which means we can bring the 2 o'clock show back in the midweek games. 10 o'clock has always stayed there. We'll still be doing 7 o'clocks for a little bit, although there are a couple of days next where we can bring it back to 8. And look, hopefully we'll be reacting outside of that time. So make sure you smash a like and subscribe. Welcome to the new members tonight who've got their badge in and support the channel. You're absolute legends. Really appreciate that. And join me on That's Football for Belgium against Romania in a few minutes' time. Take care, everyone. Loved that. Some big updates. Give us your thoughts on Shaw. Give us your thoughts on Alvarez. I'd forgotten we'd spoken about that and all the other bits. Love that. Will win show. Couldn't do without you. Take care. See you in a bit.